Okay, so today I'm going to be building this paint cabinet. Stick around if you want to see how I do it. So what I do is I try to break down, as much as I can at least, my sheet of plywood before I have to move to the table saw. And that's where the track saw really comes in handy. And now I'm going to cut all of the pieces that will make up the sliders. Since sliders are rather expensive, I'm just using a method to make them out of the wood. I'm going to keep the two sides joined as one, and then I'm going to attach all of the rails, and then I'm just going to cut it right down the middle. That way I can ensure that both sides of the rails are perfectly in line with one another. So this will act as my spacer in between my rails. My drawers are going to be 1/2 inch. But I'm leaving 5/8 in between just to give it some wiggle room. So what I'll do is I'll put spacers on the end so that it's 1/2 inch in. Then I'll put one rail. I'll put my 5/8 of an inch spacer, and then I'll put the second rail. And this is where I'll need to attach it. And all I have to do is line up all of the edges flush with one another, and I can secure it in place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and nail all of them and just kind of tack them in place. So this makes up the two sides, so now I can just cut it in half, and then I'll flip it over and attach them all. So looking back on it, definitely should watch the nail placement and not put it directly in the center where you will be making the cut. They're both even, so now both of these rails are directly in line with one another, so we shouldn't have any problem getting the drawers to go in and out very easily. So that makes up one side, and then this will make up the other. Voila. Use a T-track or T-square. Kind of line it up in the center. Now we can make the top and the bottom and start making it look like a box. Since I got these boards with the circular saw, I'm about 1/8 over right here, so I'm just going to trim it up on the table saw. Now I'm going to attach the top and the bottom and make this look like a big rectangle. Now the main thing to look for here is just to make sure that the two sides with the recessed edges on it are in the front. What you don't want to do here is end up running into your other screws that you've put in to holding the rails, so you just want to look on the side. Make sure you're missing those. Alright, and that's the bottom. So now we can flip it back over. Oops. And start making the drawers. So now that I cut the length of board with the track saw, I'm just going to be breaking it down into the individual pieces that will make up the drawers. All of the cuts are outlined on the cut list, so you can just cut all of the individual pieces according to those dimensions. Again, here you just don't want to run into your other place screws. So you just want to see where they're located and work around them. Again, since I'm making a few repetitive cuts, I'm just going to be setting up a stop block. When you're using a stop block, you always want to make sure that you're supporting the piece that's in between the stop block and the blade, just so it doesn't create kickback and come back at you. So now I'm just going to rip the strips that will create the face plates for the drawer fronts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and This is gonna act as this spacer here, since it's the same thickness. It'll be really difficult to nail in like this. I'm just kind of setting myself up for a difficult time. So instead I'll get a second scrap, lay it down. That way I can create this here. And that way I can shoot in straight. I'm gonna go ahead and put casters on my unit. You could very well just leave it like this, but I like the mobility and flexibility of having casters on pretty much everything in my shop gives me. So I'm going with 3-inch casters, and they support 150 pounds each. So total, it can support 600 pounds. So since I want these casters on the side, take out the screw that's holding the bottom onto the body, and you can use that as the corner screw, and then just use additional 3 screws to attach the caster. And this is the finished product. So now I have tons of drawer storage that could be made out of either a sheet of plywood, or you can simply use scraps laying around your shop. I have the smaller ones for the sample size, and then I have the larger drawers with more space to put quarts of stain or paint or any miscellaneous painting tools. So this is going to be my painting cabinet.